In the suit of Walt Disney World versus Ron DeSantis and the various members of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, the replacement, the successor to the Reedy Creek District, well, there is a massive, massive Achilles heel, which nobody is talking about out there on YouTube because they don't know about it. And today we're going to get into it and we're going to talk about the bonds. We're going to talk about how the bonds have now become Disney's Achilles heel. As always, guys, I'm Andrew Esquire. Welcome to the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And today we're doing it differently than all the standard Disney shills, all the pixie dusters, the mainstream media, the legal schmeagles, all those guys. They're doing it. They're doing their simp for Disney thing. We're not doing that here on this show. We're talking about facts, and the bonds are a huge fact which nobody is addressing now. Now, what's really funny about the bonds is that if you remember, let's take you back in history, right? What was it that the Democratic politicians and Disney were making a huge issue over back in the day? Can we think back and remember? Remember how they were saying that, hey, Floridians, if Reedy Creek goes away, Floridians are going to have to pay millions and billions of dollars in bonds, right? Remember that? They said these were going to be put on all of Orange County, on Osceola County, on all of Florida, and all Floridians were going to have to pay for these bonds. Remember that? Yeah, it turned out that was a lie. And what indeed happened was, as I predicted correctly on this channel, because of course, I have experience in representing special districts. I represented various special districts in Florida. I'm probably the most experienced special district attorney, particularly around Disney World. I represented all of the special districts directly surrounding Disney World. So I have intimate experience, and I've dealt with Disney's counsel, with Reedy Creek's previous counsel, dealt with them directly. So I know about this, and I know that, hey, the bonds under Florida law could never have been moved out and charged to every single Floridian. They were always only going to be payable by Disney. Whether there was a district or no district, Disney was always the one footing the bill. Now, what we saw happen, and this has already happened, it is not in dispute, is that Reedy Creek as an entity is gone. It is completely erased. Now we have the CFTOD, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. I know it's a mouthful. Now, Disney is not contesting anything about the process of destroying Reedy Creek and bringing in the CFTOD. Why? Because the CFTOD carries those bonds. If Disney was to attack the validity of the CFTOD, they would absolutely destroy themselves, and I'm going to explain why. But before I do that, make sure you smash a like button, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you have notifications dinged, because Disney, they've got a lot of influence in the media, and the folks over at YouTube, they can sometimes be unsubscribing people, they can sometimes be hating. So let's fight against the haters, and let's like this content, and leave a comment on the video whether you agree or disagree. So let's talk about how the bonds are an Achilles heel. Now, what is a bond? A bond is something that a government issues, right? It's money, right? Based on a government issue to build something for a public purpose. And governments can issue these bonds at tax-free rates for no taxes. That's an advantage over a private corporation. So for example, Reedy Creek could issue these bonds and collect money at a much lower interest rate than Disney World could go out there and get a massive loan, a much lower rate, and they pay zero taxes on it over the life of that bond. Now, the issue is they have to certify, in order to get tax-free status, they have to certify that Reedy Creek previously and now the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District is a separate public entity with the power to tax, the power to build roads, and the power to issue bonds. And it's funny enough that even in Disney's complaint, if you open up the complaint and you simply read it and turn to page 46, you see that it says here in Disney's own complaint, written by Disney lawyers, that they say right here, the CFTOD board maintains the ability to impose taxes, to build and operate roads, to provide emergency services, to exercise the power of eminent domain, to maintain and operate drainage and flood control, to adopt supplement codes, to review building permits, and look down here. Here it is, to issue general obligation bonds, revenue bonds, utility service tax bonds, and bond anticipation notes. Why do they have to do this? Because the bonds mandate this. How do I know that? I did this. I issued millions of dollars in Florida bonds. It's required. And what you have to understand is a bond is essentially a loan to that government. And as part of this, you're making a promise to the people giving you that money. You're saying, we promise we're a real government. We swears it. We swears we're a real government. And if you violate that, promise, what they can do is they can call those bonds. They can make them due immediately. They can say, pay us up right now. And if, for some reason, they were to say, and Disney is going to come out here and say, hey, we're not actually a public entity, that actually would void those bonds. They would no longer be valid public instruments. They would have to be called, and they would immediately have to be paid. Now, right now, the district controls those bonds. So what the district could do is levy taxes on the property. Whose property? Disney. That's right. Millions in taxes, millions in liens imposed on that property. And what happens if Disney doesn't pay those immediately? That's right. I'm not kidding. Magic Kingdom is foreclosed upon. This is real. The Magic Kingdom could be foreclosed upon if Disney plays their cards wrong here and has these bonds called. It's kind of a ball you're dropping. If they drop the ball of the bonds, hey, they're going to be called, right? I do these things live, guys. So listen, this is a huge issue, and it's their Achilles heel, and it's why they're playing this gingerly. You see these things they're throwing in there because they're trying to get around violating the bonds. And most lawyers do not see this. You don't see any of the leftist lawyers like Lawful Masses or Legal Eagle. You don't see those lefties talking about how the bonds are still important. No, the bonds were only important when they wanted to talk about them in the beginning. It's kind of funny how they've forgotten about them, right? Now they've just disappeared. Yeah, that's no coincidence at all. In fact, it is quite intentional. So guys, if you like this content, if you want to hear more about this, more about all these Disney legal issues, leave a comment, like